The reason why they always fight is about rivalry. You know, I think it's about self-acclaimed gang, self-acclaimed boss. This one a rule over this, and this guy also want to rule over this. So anytime they clash, there is a small incident. Then you see the two clans start to fight. Yeah, I learned it started 3 days ago when the other guy came to change money, and the other guy, his rivalry came and asked him why is he in their territory, and that was the mess.
Some people escaped only by the skin of their teeth.
I did my shop inside where they sell things before they started. Before I realize I see gun, pim, then I see inside my Zongo. You do see? Yeah, I don't get problem with anyone, but I'm in my shop where I hear pim. Before I see the gun, where I dodge, where I go home. Yeah. Came back to here. Come back to next top. Then he went out.
So I can count 4 different holes right through the ceiling, and all are, perpendicular like that, all through the space in the roof there.
Yeah. So number 1 is this. 2 is this. Came back from here to here.
Okay, so he's just now showing me, and in fact there are more holes.
For now, almost everyone in the community is living in fear. Many shops are closed and several other vendors are absent. The few vendors who showed up are visibly spooked.
The one who is shooting the gun safe, I did not see his face, but I did hear pa. Before I come out, I see plenty of people, but me, I know if you watch this one, then I run go home. I run and go home. I want my life. It's not the money.
I catch up with this coconut seller who won't speak to me. After several minutes of engaging him off record, he shares how he escaped the chaos.
Obi mi fi mambo obi no so fi Nima ina mo be hye mu no se ne adede no se ne adade no ni tio no ene ma mi sa me dade na me de call top one no mu dade na o de ton ena me de ko sie o top one no mu nti omo di be tanden omo di be 3 hours cry no mu omo shi ase no omo di be 3 hours ase no mo free.
For many, it is time for the police to nip the menace of gang clashes in the bud to forestall a future recurrence.
The law, sometimes the law no they work. Sometimes they do say the law in the work. Because ask me why.
Why, sir?
The way I say you should ask me why. Because something is going on inside the area. You see human being, fellow human being, when it's not a police or soldier, he say he is using gun. For what? Because this thing where is happy, we really understand for that thing. Because we the area here, we know say our president is in Nima police station. Where if something happen inside the youth, we suppose that boys where they do all that thing, they're supposed to catch him. We see say human being feel kill somebody, they run go, their son come back, they say they leave him. Why?
More than 24 hours after the incident, it's many police boots on ground. The goal, to hunt down and prosecute the remaining gang members to prevent another clash. Manuel Cranting, Joy News, Accra.
Sure, chief executives of these criminal gangs, we are doing everything possible to make sure that we pursue them, we get them, investigate them, and charge them for court. That is the leader of the Kumoji group. He is Ali Awudu. And the other one, excuse me, Bomb Bomb Group, which is led by Ali Awudu. And the Kumoji group placed 20,000 on their head. Anybody or any member of the public who offers credible information that leads to their arrest will be given that amount. Let me state again, 20,000 cedis have been placed on their head. And therefore, it is our wish that members of the public will collaborate with police to enable us get them to face justice. And let me put on record that wherever we have any gang or group in this country, the police will deal with it. We will not allow it to grow. They should move away from it and engage in productive ventures. They should move away from the formation and growth of such gangs and unlawful structures.
Well, here we go, and that's what we're going to use to kickstart the conversation we're about to have, focusing on security-related matters. The Ghana Police Service, what should our expectations be of them in this new year? It still is new. We're still in the first month of the year, especially on the back of the appointment of a certain Dr. Ekufo Dampare. And, of course, what he's been doing in recent times. Some interesting things that he's brought our way. Think of the fact that affected police officers, those whose families are affected, have got psychological or psychiatric help and all of that. For the first time in a long while, we are seeing that when police officers perish, we have ceremonies, proper ceremonies for them, so many things. We'll be delving into the security-related matters with Professor Kwesi Enning, Director, Faculty of Academic Affairs and Research with the Kofi Annan International Peacekeeping Training Center. We also have Dr. Adam Bona, a security analyst. Gentlemen, a very good morning to you.
Yeah, good morning.
Do we have both of you? Do we have...
Yes, I can hear you. Good morning.
Okay, so this is Dr. Bona, right?
Yes, correct, yes.
Okay, Dr. Bona, a very good morning to you.
Good morning to you, Ben.
Right. So we're going to be delving into quite a number of issues. But let's start with maybe the Ghana Police Service in terms of what you've seen so far. It's been quite some months now since we had Dr. Dampare. What do you see in terms of the Ghana Police Service now? If you had to describe the Ghana Police Service in one word, what would you say, Dr. Bona?
What I would say in one word has to do with, their morale is high, high morale, excellence, if you want to call it that way, yeah.
So, excellence, high morale, that's basically how the things that come to mind when you think of the current Ghana Police Service.
Yes.
What do you think has brought about these sentiments that you're sharing? High morale, excellence. What has worked for them in the last few months? Are you there, Dr. Bona?
Can you hear me? Yes, I'm here.
Did you get the question?
Yes, I got the question, yes.
Right.
Okay, so with regards to high morale, I mean, myself and my team at the Institute of Security Safety Policy Research and Security Warehouse, we are conducting a research into, which is police perception index among themselves to know how they perceive themselves in recent times. Even though we are not done with, what do you call it, the collecting, surveying them and to do the analysis, the results we are getting at the moment looks very, most of them are responding to the fact that they are more confident today than before. Most of them are also saying and the number of them who are answering to whether the IGP is doing well or not is very high as we speak. As many as 90-something% of them are saying the current IGP is the right man for the work, and and the questions, several of the questions they answered positive, very high. And so looking at that on a more scientific base, you want to say, even though the research is we are not done yet, you want to say, as we speak, police officers feel more confident, and police officers feel, a bit more better, feel a bit more better than they used to feel in the past. And probably what has brought about that change has to do with the new leadership. And most of us kept complaining and kept shouting on top of roofs and saying that the Ghana police indeed had, the men who could do the work. They had personnel who could do the work when given the opportunity. And therefore, those who have crossed the retirement age should not be given contract. And I would want to say that some of us have been vindicated. You can see Ekofo Dampare, the current IGP, is everywhere. Since he took over, there are some communities that no IGP has ever visited, where politicians, even during elections, will not dare visit. And some of these communities, I would have visited some of these communities many years ago, 20 years ago, in the Atebubu area, the Stene district, the OT area. He's visited most of these places, visiting police officers. In fact, when those 2 police officers were shot in the Upper East area, I was actually heading to the Upper East. I actually met him at the Air Force Base in the Upper East. He had gone to convey the bodies himself to, Accra. And one of them who had serious injury, he was there to make sure they evacuated them medically to Accra. These are some of the things, and you can see his ability to move around among his officers, to move around among the people. It's a, moral booster for the officers and men. And you can see that is having a telling positive effect on crime fighting. In the past, even me at my level used to be so afraid, so scared with regards to the rampant violent crimes that were going on unabated without anyone fighting it, to the extent that we had a situation where these violent criminals, were able to rob in front of the former IGP, when I say in front of the police headquarters. This and many more actually dipped the morale of the police back then. And other police officers who were killed and, in broad daylight, and nothing really happened. And so as far as I'm concerned, this and many more, for me, is what is making me say that their performance today, to me, is excellent. When I say it's excellent, it doesn't mean everything is okay. There's still a lot of room. But if you look at where we have come from, we got to a point where, violent robberies was something that went on unreported. Even the media, it got to a point you stopped reporting violent crimes, because then it was every day you record about 10 all over the country, violent crimes. So as far as I'm concerned, he has done very well together with his men. And today you go to those who visit the police headquarters and other places will tell you that you go there and they are out there on the beat doing their work. And so I sometimes go to the headquarters trying to collect data. You go there and most of the officers are out there because if the IGP is not sitting, you don't sit.
You dare not sit yourself. Right. What would be what would be the downsides, though, the drawbacks that you've seen that are still not being addressed as far as our policing is concerned, that you would want the Ghana Police Service to take a critical look at, especially in 2022?
2022, I think, working longer hours. Officers have complained. The research we are conducting, a portion that talks about number of hours. They have complained largely that working longer hours is something that they are not too pleased with, and also their welfare. They answered that they would want their welfare to be, to be looked at, to be really looked at, and also retooling. There has been, substantial retooling over the years. As for that, I must confess, the police service have had, some amount of gadget equipment coming in, but there is a promise of, body cameras that are supposed about 25,000 or 20,000 body cameras that were supposed to have come in. Those have not come in yet. There's the promise of the police helicopters. These helicopters should have come in. I know the procurement is done, and I am also aware that they are supposed to have been delivering them. The hangar for these helicopters have been built. Those who are supposed to be piloting them have been trained and all that, but the helicopters have not yet touched down. The other thing that has to be looked at, which probably would come under welfare, has to do with accommodation.
Right.
Officers largely don't have accommodation. So you have 5,000 or more police officers who are going to be joining the current 37,000 officers who are, who are currently working, who largely don't have accommodation. And so the additional 5,000 or more that are going to come on are only coming to compound the situation. And in addition, I think substantially most of them, there are no, any backlog arrears with regards to promotion. So it's one thing I would want to congratulate the Minister of the Interior, the IGP, and the rest. And so these are some of the things that I would say 2022, we want to see them more out there and also dealing with gun, related activities, and conflict in Boku and other places would have to be dealt with 2022.
Right. And that's topical, what you just mentioned, gangsterism and its effects. We saw the recent Nima Mamobi clash. We're not going there yet. And I saw a post where someone recently was talking about the fact that we tout ourselves as a peace-loving country and all of that, but we have all of these pockets of incidents in Boku and different parts of the northern belt of our country, and even coming down south, some of them chieftaincy issues. We'll get into those because I want us to segregate that. But we can also talk about the fact that the current Ghana Police Service has been very interactive on social media, on Facebook, and they disseminate a lot of information, which is also good. But in your report that you're putting together, is there any component that also looks at their recruitment and training? Another worrisome aspect of the work they do, because sometimes we've heard of the influences that go in there, the crop of people we get in there, and of course, if you are not getting people of a certain standard, then it's like we say in computing, GIGO, garbage in, garbage out. Do you have a component for that in your research right before we proceed with other questions?
Yes, correct. We have a component that talks about a question like, I am satisfied with the recruitment process into the Ghana Police Service. That is the question. And you have a scale of 1 to 5, where if you answer to 5, it means you are happy, it's excellent. If you answer 1, it means, you are not. And you have most officers have answered to 1, have ticked 1. 1, which means that most officers, the current police officers who have answered, who have answered to, the questionnaires that are out there, are not happy with processes leading to the recruitment of police officers. The processes leading to the way they are trained. The processes leading to, the way they are deployed, the whole process, they are not happy with it. And so, yes, we have a component there that, seeks to ask them, because this is they themselves to know, because then a police officer would be able to tell you more about how police officers feel or how he feels than how civilians would be able to determine how police officers feel. And so this research is seeking to, find out amongst themselves how they feel about their work, how they feel about their bosses, how they feel about, recruitment and all those things, welfare and all that. Yes, so there's a portion and they are not happy. What it means is that if people are recruited and, the processes, probably officers are not too happy, then one will say that those who are in charge would have to look at it. And so once we are done, I do believe that multimedia is going to be one of the media houses we are going to be collaborating with to launch the report. We will launch the report. Other partners are coming aboard to launch it, hopefully in March, that area. And so, I do believe that it would help to shape policy when, it is launched and passed on to the policymakers. It would help to say, to shape policy, because then you have among the officers themselves, they are not happy with the way probably they themselves were recruited into the service. They would have wished that there was a more better way, transparent, a more better way of recruiting them into the service to probably help them with their work.
Right. And moving on from there, we also have an issue that you've actually spoken of in recent times. I just want us to look globally at some of the issues that have hit us in respect of the Ghana Police Service. And you've been outspoken talking about the incident at Atiko Junction, for example. You felt it was unfortunate that the commanding officer at the relevant police station had not been able to rope in or rein in the officer in charge at the time. There have not been too many developments on the back of that matter. What do you have to say now that we know the little that we do know about that situation? What else do you have to say in respect of that?
I want you to which incident is that? I'm trying to.
So the police officer who was driving a vehicle, a Vitz, ran into.
Oh yes.
Some people actually around Atiko Junction, and I was just asking what your follow-up is. I mean, when it happened, you had some pretty harsh words for the Ghana Police Service and the commanding officer. What do you have to say now? Not much has developed since then.
Not much has developed. My checks indicate that the police are investigating it. But, I mean, I do believe and I have confidence in the IGP and his team of, men around him. I would want this issue to be thoroughly investigated. We shouldn't have a situation where when police officers are touched, all of us go on rooftops and we are screaming out and saying that deal with them. We want a situation where when officers also tend to commit crimes, say heinous crimes such as this, they are not shielded. We want a situation where we should have, commanding officers swiftly coming out to tell us the truth. But unfortunately, not much has been done with regards to the commanding officer at Doko also. He coming out, trying to tell us they cannot give us much, a lot of information. How can you say you cannot give us any information? This issue that is unfolding in Nima, Mamobi area, the police is telling us they are looking for A, B, C, D. They are looking for a certain this, a certain that, and a certain this. And so mine is that just as when civilians commit crimes, we are happy to publish their names. When police officers are suspected to commit crimes, we want to see their commanding officers, where they work. The officers should be pleased to put out their names. And so as far as I'm concerned, I believe it's an issue that would be dealt with, knowing the current dispensation. They have promised all of us. I mean, some of us have had backroom conversation with the current, police administration. And they have told us that nobody will be shielded in the Ghana Police Service. If you commit a crime, you will be punished. And I've seen others getting punished under the current, police administration. So it's good. We have to continue. And I would probably reiterate that the media, we all have a role to play, yourselves. When these issues happen, I think we should do probably monthly review of this incident, in order to remind our authorities, i.e. the police, the military, and the rest, when things happen and you don't deal with them, we will do a monthly review of your performance and let you know what you dealt with right, what you didn't deal with right.
Is that something you have in the works? Is that something you have in the works, Dr. Bona? Is it something you are planning on doing?
Yes.
Monthly reviews of the police and its work and how they're faring?
Exactly. It's something that we are working on. It's something that we are working on, and the year has just started, so we are already cataloging, incidents that started the 1st of January. We are looking at them and how the police dealt with them, and so we will do the review, every first week of the following month.
Okay.
So that those they didn't deal with, we try to let them know these issues are still outstanding. Deal with them, because then this year I don't think any of us is going to fall asleep. Since Dan Parish is not falling asleep, I do believe that those of us, the security watchers, we have no reason to fall asleep, including his commanders.
Okay. Is the police, just very, very briefly on this one, is the police just protecting this person, the police officer involved in the Atiko Junction incident? Is that how you feel?
I don't want to feel that way, knowing who Dampare. I don't want to feel that way.
Yes, but the fact is that in other instances we've been pretty speedy in resolving them, in arresting people, in fishing them out, in doing this and that. If we come to the Nima issue, which we'll be talking about shortly, a bounty of 20,000 placed on the heads of these people, you see action. In this instance, it's one of those sore points or that stick out like a sore thumb, where we're not exactly seeing that same kind of energy. Is that not the way you see it?
Well, yes. Looking at it, it will be safe to say the police might be seen to be protecting one of their own. We shouldn't be. And so some of us can probably ask that whoever this officer is, I think they've given us his number and all that. We need to know what happened. I mean, 2 people have died out of his recklessness. 2 people have died, and these are civilians. And for me, that would not augur well for the police itself. And so that is not to say they aren't doing anything about it, but we need more information.
Okay.
If you look at, even though we are here to discuss Nima Mamobi, we have been very strict. Even last night there was a press conference held by my good friend ACP Kwesifori with regards to what they are doing and how they want to arrest these perpetrators.
Okay, doke. Let's interact now. Let's usher in Professor Kwesi Enning, Director, Faculty of Academic Affairs and Research, Kofi Annan International Peacekeeping Training Center. Prof, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us. Hello, Professor Enning. Can you hear me?
Yes. Hello.
Great.
Yes, I can hear you.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining the conversation. We've had quite a lot going on in your absence, so you're going to have to catch up. But very briefly, I remember sometime late last year, I had an interaction with you on the Ghana Police Service after the president had confirmed Dr. Ekufo Dampare at post as IGP. And you said it was early days yet to give any assessment of his work as IGP. Would this be a good time after all that we've seen? Psychiatric assistance for police officers, for victims of, those whose families have been affected. So many things, novelties that we've maybe not seen in the Fourth Republic that are taking place. Would it be a good time for you to give an assessment of the Ghana Police Service? I mean, what are the positives you've seen, the negatives, and on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate them?
Well, on a scale of 1 to 10, I will rate him around 6.5. And let me try to explain why. When Dr. Dampare was appointed, I also made it clear that because of his stance, 2 things will take place. One will be a reluctance by the powers that be to give him the free hands. Second will be his metal. Is Dr. Dampare strong and tough enough to take the fight to us? Or were we to take the fight to him, will he have the strength to push back? So I'm not surprised at all about the levels of crime, their willingness to use guns, and of course, the positively robust response coming from the police. So within the space of time that he has been in office, there is almost self-discipline that we see beginning to emerge in Ghanaian society. I mean, on Sunday, I was coming from Winneba. The traffic was terrible, but people were disciplined in that traffic. And I think it is because of the signal that Dr. Dampare and his team have been, showing. So far, so good. A lot still needs to be done. And I think the gangsterism in Nima has shown that there's a long way to go. Guns are in abundance. People want to challenge authority. But I can assure you, change has come in terms of how the Ghana Police Service as an institution will work and will respond to the challenges that we are facing. So kudos to the Ghana Police Service so far.
Interesting, because we've seen about a bit of prophecies and all of that, so quite a bit of work they've been doing. But let's talk about some of the recent incidents. Just 2 days ago.
Let me talk about this prophecies thing for 30 seconds.
Okay, go ahead, Prof.
The good Lord only speaks with one voice. People have given prophecies, and when they are challenged, they change it. Charlatans in this business who aim good and bring the name of God into disrepute have all run away. In the Old Testament, those who did God's work would still have given prophecies because it was the voice of God. Okay, so the charlatans who are talking, screaming and shouting, they should stay where they are as charlatans. And please, let's allow Dr. Ekufu Dampare to get his job done.
Prof, Sebi, is that what you mean? They should stay in there.
No, they shouldn't keep on lying.
Right.
They shouldn't keep on double-crossing people. Because when they do that, and they are reported, they will be dealt with. This is the rule of law, with respect for human rights. But the rule of law and the human rights work within certain parameters. So if you think you are doing God's work and you want to prophesy, please go ahead. Nobody's stopping you. But don't create fear and panic in society because you want to do it for money. Now, somebody prophesied about a powerful imam dying a couple of years ago. And when he was threatened, he quickly changed his mouth. Now, it's not God's work. That is gangsterism masquerading as God's work.
You call that gangsterism masquerading as God's work?
Yeah, gangsterism.
It's interesting because that person, court issues surrounding that, but since you've decided not to mention the name of the person, let's leave it as it is.
No, I think we all know the character.
Oh yes, I believe we all know.
Let's not dignify that name on your program. I mean, it's not worth it.
Right. Gentlemen, so I'd like us to look at this issue of gangsterism and what's transpired recently in Nima Mamobi. It took some of us by surprise, but the point is, should it really have surprised us? Because there have always been simmering undercurrents. And even if you widen the scope of the conversation, poverty, grinding poverty, if you know these communities well and if you've been there with them, if you look at the staggering levels of youth unemployment and the number of them just going around with not so much to do and all of that. Let's start from the root issues, even before we get to what transpired. Prof, why do you think we're seeing some of these things in the Nima Mamobi area?
Well, authority as we know it is beginning to give way. We are seeing a youth bulge that is frustrated, a sense of exclusion, easy availability of guns, a culture where demonstration of macho behavior and utterances are glorified, poor usage of police intelligence in preventing the ability of people to organize and publicly demonstrate their capacity to threaten society. So there are a gamut of reasons, we may call it root causes, that has brought the neighbor Mabobi clash into the public domain. But it is not surprising at all. What has surprised me is that it took so long for it to take place.
You are surprised that it took so long for it to take place. You expected something like this, an outburst like this, much earlier.
I expected it much earlier because all the factors I've given, availability of guns, a macho culture, a sense of exclusion, a sense of victimhood and dispossession, they've all been there, and then an unwillingness or an incapacity to use intelligence to prevent and to intervene. Because if you see the speed with which we've been giving the names of the gangs and the names of their leaders, then it creates a certain impression that these are people who are known, that these gangs are known.
So that then points to an intelligence failure, right?
Precisely. Now, these are not gangs or groups whose actions inure to the benefit of the larger society. So the question is, if within an hour or two we knew the leadership, we knew the name, possibly had an idea about the structure and the psyche driving them and the types of economic criminal activities that they engaged in, then why didn't we intervene? Why wasn't that intelligence used to prevent what happened? So whilst we are chasing these bad guys, I think we need to look within the use of intelligence and proactive intelligence and operational intelligence in preventing and infiltrating some of these groups. Because right now, in almost every community, you know who the intelligence officer is, which should not be the case. Okay, earlier on, that intelligence officer would be a photographer, a shoe shine, a shoe repairer, a baker, and nobody knew. Okay, so there is a failure of intelligence here that we would need to look at whilst we still chase the criminal. But my interest right now is how other groups may want to opportunistically exploit what has taken place,
right?
Knowing now that they are youth for whom violence has been a currency. And I think we have had this conversation severally. These are people who can be hired and will be hired to perform particular acts of violence.
Will be hired by whom? Will be hired by whom?
Oh, competing interest. It could be business. It could be politics. It could be all sorts of things. But what has happened in Nima has sent a clear signal that the way that we perceive armed violence,
right,
public demonstration of that use of violence has changed and changed fundamentally.
Okay.
My work and argument over the last couple of years has been to understand some violence as a currency. And I think Mabobi Clash has demonstrated that value is high, it is daring, it is bold, it is well organized, and it is ready for business.
And
we are going to see,
right?
We are going to see some more of these acts of violence.
We're going to see some more of these acts of violence. Okay, so you say it should have happened even earlier, and we're going to see more. Dr. Bona, yeah. let me come to you on the same subject. Do you feel same? Do you think along the same lines that Professor Enning is thinking? We had the Ejra disturbances from last year. And we also what followed from there. This year we've started off on the wrong footing with this Nima Mamobi crisis on our hands. Did you see it coming? And do you foresee more of same, as Prof is suggesting, Dr. Bona?
Let me say good morning to my brother, Prof. Penin. Please let him know I'm still waiting for my Christmas hamper.
Prof can hear you loud and clear, so I'm sure he'll respond to you himself.
Yes, to see.
And congratulations. Congratulations.
Thank you very much, Prof. Just like Prof. Penin said, this thing has been waiting to happen, and it would happen again, and could be worse if we don't deal with it. And I tell you what, we've got to face the facts. What we saw in Nima did not just happen, on the day. Who created it? It is the politicians.
The politicians created it?
Yes, the politicians created it. Let me take you back. You know what? When election is due or elections are about taking place, where do these politicians go to hire these bandits? You can go back to Ayawasu West Wagon. Those who fired the guns, those who shot at, what do you call it, the young people who were at that particular polling station were Muslim young Turks who have been hired into the national security. Those who were fired at are Muslim young Turks who were fired, young people, I won't say they are Turks, who were fired at. If you go to Ejra, we had a similar thing in Ejra, right? And so our Zongos have become a breeding ground for extremism, radicalism, and violent, young people who are ready to offer their services to the highest bidder. And so let's face it, I am aware the Chief Imam's office, my brother, Sheikh Armaya and co, have been playing a certain role. But I will tell you that it actually goes beyond the Chief Imam's office. Even though as the leader of the Muslims, one will say that his office, elections may be few, maybe in June, maybe there'll be some internal elections among some of the politicians, and then we go into 2023, then the activities of maybe campaigning will start. And these young people, some of them who you see performing these activities were previously used by politicians. And so it is a reason why the community know them, and the community know they are well connected. As far as I'm concerned, these are people the security agencies know. And so you see, when you see these things happening, it's only happening because they are emboldened, they have the resources. And so when elections are not taking place, when there is no land to protect, when there is no debts to be collected, then they have to find a way to show up that they have the power. And so as far as I'm concerned, were we not here when a soldier at ANC shopping mall, is it Christmas or New Year's Day, fired a number of rounds at the ANC shopping mall?
Right.
Who gave him the weapon? We don't know.
New Year's Day.
Yes. Who gave him the weapon? We don't know. What has happened to him? We don't know. The fact is that we have too many illicit firearms at the hands of these young people. And there's a lot of research. I'm sure my brother Prof will tell you that, you see, we have been talking about these things, but the truth is that nothing is happening. You go to Kaswa, Bujumburam area, now the situation has calmed down. But go to Ashaman, go to Alaba, go to other places. Just when was it? I think yesterday, a young person, a young boy was arrested with a firearm in his rucksack with 40,000 Ghana cedis, with $1,000 on a scooter, on a motorbike. And randomly they stopped him and they found this in his bag. This is just one stop and they found this. So just imagine how many of them are parading around with illicit firearms, illicit resources. And just like Prof said, you know what? They are there, if they are idling someone would use them. And also the use of drugs. Go to these Zongo communities. You will be amazed how many of these young people idling are able to find the resources to, use cocaine, to use tramadol, to use weed, heroin, to use all sorts of drugs. And when these young people become high, what do you expect them to do? As far as I'm concerned, I have had these conversations with Sheikh Armiya, if he's listened to me. I've had it with, the Light Foundation. I have been part of seminars that the Light Foundation had among Muslim young. And you see, you go, like I said, I don't want to repeat myself, but these things are happening. Why is it happening in the Zongo communities? Is there a reason why the Zongo communities have become a breeding ground for criminals? Let's face it. Let's not mince words. These are facts. During elections, they are hired to, and used the wrong way. When there are no elections, those who have land and want to protect the land go into the Zongo communities and hide them. Right. My point is that it is also with the tacit support of the executive because they use them when they want. Mine is that we have a national security that I have spoken about at length. And I have said that we need the national security to restructure itself and ensure, just like Professor Kusiedin said, an intelligence officer is not the one who is wearing a Katamanto. He didn't say it, I'm saying it. A Katamanto jacket with a radio tagged in his pocket. He goes to a chop bar and he says, they say national security for Naba. No, an intelligence person would be the watch seller. An intelligence person would be the shoe shine, the cobbler or the shoe shine boy who probably has been trained to identify, to analyze and know that this person is a criminal and be able to report. Or the guy who is cleaning the drains. This is what we call, people who are trained to ensure that they bring information to the authorities to nail some of these people. But unfortunately, you and I would know a certain national security couple, the moment you see them, you know that, okay, you don't have to ask, he will tell you.
National security for Naba.
Problems we have, yes.
Right.
National security for Naba, yes.
Which is very wrong, I mean, because you shouldn't even be known. But very valid point you make there. Prof, how do we, if you had to map out a strategy, and this is your area, how do we get past this hurdle? If you had to give advice on this hurdle, what would you say? And what component do you feel should go into the Zongo Development Ministry, for example, or the Zango Development Ministry, depending on how you want to call it? But just as Dr. Bonas said, they are actually taking advantage of people in these communities. How much do you feel it should feed into a solution, a permanent solution moving forward?
Well, I think we are not ready to look for solutions much more permanent because the groundswell of frustrated available youth fits into the calculus of people who want to exploit and use them. I don't think we've reached the tipping point where the levels of violence and destruction become so massive that as a nation we say, hang on, we need to move back on the brink. We need to do something about this. We need to give people a new and a different consciousness about their identity, about who they are, and the value and the honesty of decent work. I'm sorry, we are not there yet. And until we get there, we will be introducing platitudinal programs that do not seek to help the youth, but rather seek to help individuals to benefit. So my assessment is that until we reach that tipping point where the violence becomes more encompassing and there is generalized fear and uncertainty, then we will say this has become an existential threat and we need to do something about it. But we are not there yet. We need to see about 3, 4, 5, 6 times the escalation of violence and destruction that we have seen before as a nation. We will start to do the hard thing that we need to do.
Right. I want to start off on the other belt of the conversation that we're going to have with you on the herdsman situation. And maybe I'll apportion, God willing, about 5 minutes to each of you to share your very detailed thoughts on that. I shudder sometimes to use the word Fulani because of the stereotypical elements in there. So I'll just say herdsmen. When it comes to their grouping, I mean, we can go as far back as the Ghana Empire and all of that. But in recent times, we had that situation in the Ashanti region, specifically the Asante Achim North District of the Ashanti region, where that 15-year-old, together with his brother, were going to draw water. They were accosted by these herdsmen. And next thing you know, one of them, the 15-year-old, was slashed, received multiple slashes of a machete, and now he has met his ancestors. The underlying issues are what I want us to look at this morning. For decades, we've had these issues. Prof, how do we finally bring some closure to these matters? And where are we getting it wrong in terms of dealing with the Fulani community? Are we missing out on something that is leading to this problem time and again?
Once more, we've missed the boat. Those that we call Fulanis, some of them are 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th generation Ghanaians. But there is a reluctance by the state of Ghana and those who consider themselves the legitimate and original indigenous people to accept what I would term, for the lack of a better term, these Ghanaians. So the state of Ghana itself exploits this lacunae by issuing identity cards to these people, taxes their cattle, both at the state or at the regional community and then at the local level. But it's unwilling and unprepared to give them the protection that they deserve. That feeds into a wider identity crisis. And over time, it has festered and transformed. And when you push people to the wall, they respond. So this is a problem that is going to get much, much, much worse. And I'm going to give a couple of reasons why.
Prof, you will tell us why, but you're sounding a bit pessimistic. It's almost as though for each situation, you think things can only get worse. Why is that?
I've been talking about this for 22 years. On this particular farmer header crisis, I'm not pessimistic. You see, this is what has brought me to where I am. I say things as they are, and I have enemies across the spectrum. But you know what? Those who hate me for telling the truth, that's their problem. I don't expect them at my father's funeral. I don't want them at my mother's funeral, because they'll come and drink 20 bottles of Guinness and put 10 cents. I don't share the same values with them. So I'll keep speaking the truth. And if the truth sounds pessimistic, I don't lose sleep over it at all.
So what is the truth we're missing?
Is that we are being hypocritical about this. If you like, after this program, call those who matter in this country and let them tell you about the ECOWAS protocol on transhumans, if they can just describe it offhand. As a nation, we have signed on to these international instruments, but we are doing nothing about it. And those instruments are very straightforward, because it is part of the culture of these people in terms of moving their cattle across national boundaries. we need to create particular parts of bond country X are left behind. So there are regulatory processes and mechanisms that we have overlooked. Now, when the state fails to deliver on what it has signed internationally, and I'm only telling them to go, that is not necessary. Somebody's head must be on the chopping block because failure to implement is contributing to the problem that we are facing.
Whose head? In an instance like this, whose head? The interior minister?
I don't know, but there must be some head.
National
there
security.
Must be somebody who should be implementing. Okay, somebody must be implementing. And it is that consistent failure over time that has deepened this problem. Okay. The loss of lives, the destruction of property, those are issues that we can deal with. But that's not the core. Those are not the core. Those are not the core issues. Okay. So climate variability is going to worsen. The availability of guns once more. Look, it's not that I'm being pessimistic. Guns are everywhere. We are improving our capacity to manufacture. The demands are growing, and there's a certain willingness to supply. But when you see the truth from the very top, okay, you are threatened for talking about small arms, for talking about leakages. Okay? I'm going to challenge you. Within the next 2 to 3 years, we are not going to see machetes being used or these small guns. We are going to see IEDs because the explosives are available, the detonators are available.
How many years did you say again? In how many years?
2 to 3 years.
2 to 3 years.
Yes, 2 to 3. Okay, because we know that when people want to make boreholes, they go to Tutu, hire some of these guys, and they will come home, dig a hole, put in the explosives to identify, to map, and to prevent the escalation. First, of the raw material infrastructure for causing harm and for creating.
So it appears, it is clear, Prof, that this is a much bigger issue than we see it on the surface, and this is just the tip of the iceberg. But let me be fair and give you, Dr. Bona, a bite of this as well. If you can do 2 minutes for me, my apologies, I'd be grateful. What do you see in this instance? What are we missing? What's the way forward?
Which of the instances, if you can?
So the Herdsmen incident, what are the focal issues? What do we do going forward?
Well, what we do, we've been trying to do them just like my brother Prof. Enin alluded to. We know we've signed on to, an international protocol, the ECOWAS protocol. And so when I hear people say Fulani, Fulani, I say, who is a Fulani? Your citizenship is not defined by your tribe. Your citizenship is defined by law. And so if you want to denigrate a Fulani, then you are denigrating your second lady, because she's a Fulani. Okay, she's a Fulani. And so as far as I'm concerned, when I hear people talk about it, sometimes I marvel. And I marvel because, you see, lands in this country, don't belong to the states, even though the state has that power to regulate them. And so you have, in one breath, we were told we were supposed to have all this, what do you call it, facilities that are supposed to be, built to manage this herdsmen and their animals. Unfortunately, we don't have them. We haven't built them. I know, a ministerial task force was put in place to check this herdsman-farmer conflict. I don't know, what has happened to it. Mine is that this issue is a non-issue if professionals are put to the wheel to deal with it. It should have been to our advantage. This, farmer conflict, we could have turned it to be an avenue for creating more jobs. Why did Kwame Nkrumah, the facility he built in the Upper East? He built it because they bring in the animals, and when they are living, a portion of it is left to be slaughtered for local consumption and, for factories here. And so as far as I'm concerned, why should people, these are crop farmers and these are animal farmers. Why should they be fighting? If we have regulations that could have been used to solve it.
Right.
But unfortunately, we have been very hypocritical and apportioning blame here and there. Mine is that the solution is very simple. But when in this part of the world, simple solutions, we don't like the simple solutions. We want people to die, and then we begin to talk about it. What happened recently in Agogo, has been happening for the last how many years, and it is not going to, stop because the herdsmen are going to come, and locally, people also own them, and people recruit these Fulani people, and when they are here, do we integrate them well into our society? So for me, let's not be hypocritical about it.
Crucial questions. Right. So three matters that both of you are mentioning: an identity crisis for the herds people or the Fulanis, the fact that we are not addressing the core issues, and myriad other matters that you make mention of. But how exactly we're going to move forward with them is the big question. We're being hypocritical, you say as well. But I'd like to say a very big thank you to you, Professor Kwesi Ening, for joining the conversation. Thank you so much, Prof.
Well, thank you.
Great. Professor Kwesi Ening, Director, Faculty of Academic Affairs and Research, Kofi Annan International Peacekeeping Training Center. Dr. Bona, thank you as well for staying with us in the course of this conversation.
Thank you.
Dr. Adam Bona is a security analyst. And both of them joined us for this conversation. Now we go to the next leg of the big stories, and it has to do with COVID-19. It has to do with the booster shots and now pregnant women being incorporated. It has to do with how well we're doing in terms of dealing with COVID-19 and what the way forward is for our country. We'll be joined by our guests after the break as we get into that conversation. Do stay.